Sorry everyone, I meant to get this out sooner, but fate decided to give me a flat tire and a very large repair bill, but I'm back in action now. So, the past few weeks for TF2 fans have been turbulent. We've all been strapped into the world's fastest emotional roller coaster, but I think we're finally at the point where the dust is starting to settle and we can all have a moment to take a collective deep breath. So let's take some chill pills and breathe in a deep sigh of relief. I got a lot on my mind regarding Fixed TF2 to talk about, and I think I'll start with the good news. Last week, Valve decided to kind of care again. There was a massive ban wave that instantly got rid of nearly every cheater bot in TF2 and also banned most of the people that hosted the bots. I've been keeping tabs on the community, and from what I've seen, bots have attempted to come back multiple times, and every time they do, within the hour, they are banned again. It's been genuinely exciting to load into matches knowing they'll be completely bot-free. I have played hours worth of TF2 exclusively in casual mode, and I have yet to see a single bot. For the first time in like 5 years, we can stop worrying about bots and start putting up with all the other dumb bullshit about casual mode, which is a big fat W in my book. It is so funny to me that just over a week ago, the people that were hosting these bots were confident that Valve would never do anything and would openly boast that cheaters always win. And now that something is being done, all of the hosters are losing their mind, convinced Valve is spying on them and deleting all of their accounts in fear. Now that they stopped getting a modicum of attention and a slap on the wrist from Daddy Valve, they're all fleeing with their tails tucked between their legs. I think a little schadenfreude is in order here. Keep in mind that most of the people that host bots aren't the coding masterminds people make them out to be. Most of these guys just mooch off of other people's software and code, and if that software has been compromised, it's going to make it much harder for future cheaters to breach the game. So, to all of you attention-seeking assholes who endangered other people's personal lives for your degenerate hobby, fuck you, stay out, you will not be missed. But that leads me to my next thought. See, after the last Save TF2 effort, there was a notable period where there was less bot activity as well. Obviously, that period didn't last and the bots came back. Who's to say that what happened now isn't a standard ban wave and all the bots will come back in like a week? It would be hilariously ironic if this statement aged like milk, but I don't think this ban wave is like last time. I don't think we have another tweet scenario on our hands here. Something is different this time. For one, in previous ban waves, it would only really knock out the most obvious of hackers and bots, and the people who got banned would just make new accounts and start again soon after. However, this time it seems like a more prolonged effort. Bots and cheaters are still being banned, and it looks like the hosters themselves are being targeted as well. The creators of notorious cheats and bot hosters have been receiving game bans as well, which is out of the norm for a standard VAC wave. And on top of that, Valve has created a Steam support page just for game bans to state that they are permanent and irreversible. Whatever this VAC update was, it's a byproduct of some sort of new system. I can guarantee that much with 100% confidence. What I do not know is how this new system works, if it'll last, or how long it's been in development for. I highly doubt that whatever this new system is was developed in just a few weeks after Fixed TF2 began, and we don't really know how long it was in the works for. Maybe this new system has been a years-long effort from Valve, maybe even before the original Save TF2. It could be possible that Fixed TF2 kickstarted Valve to work on the new system faster. But does it even really matter if Fixed TF2 is ultimately what led to TF2 being fixed? I don't think so. In the end, all that really matters is that the bots are gone and TF2 is playable again, which is all we wanted. But I will say that Valve sure picked a hell of a time to drop this new system. Alright, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the word with a capital B, the boycott. See, Valve has kind of put us into a tricky spot because we were getting ready to make a big push for a TF2 boycott. The reasoning for a boycott being that the player base shouldn't support a product that is unplayable. The obvious problem with that now is that currently the game is playable, and it doesn't really make sense to punish Valve's wallets for a problem that they just fixed. If Valve loses money after doing what the community demanded from them, it's gonna be a bad look for the community, and Valve would feel disincentivized to work on TF2. But, on the other hand, we are stuck in the Valve cycle. Currently, we are right here. We have no assurance that these ban waves are going to last, and Valve currently has larger incentives to fix the bot problem. One reason is that Valve is kind of garnering a reputation for harboring cheaters, not only in TF2, but Counter-Strike 2, a game that's less than a year old. These days, it's impossible to bring up either of these games without also mentioning the cheating epidemic that plagues both of them. And normally, Valve wouldn't and hasn't cared. But this time could be different because Valve has their big new multiplayer game in the pipeline. Valve could possibly be trying to stave off the cheaters in their other games so that during the build-up to the new game's release, the discourse won't be dominated with talks of cheaters. Another incentive Valve has to work on the cheater problem right now is that the TF2 summer update is due at any point. I can confirm this with 100% certainty because mappers have already received emails about their maps being added. This is standard procedure for when an update drops, and it means that the summer update could drop theoretically at any point. Valve might want to keep cheaters out right now so people will feel less incentivized to boycott the update, and more incentive to spend on the shiny new cosmetics they add. At any moment, Valve could get bored and leave the game to rot again, and thus be filled with cheaters. So on one hand, we could go forward with a boycott regardless of the fixes, breaking the Valve cycle once and for all, and there would be less incentive to work on the bot problem. On the other hand, if we call off the protest and start slobbering on Valve's nads, then the community will grow complacent again, and the bots will inevitably take over again. So after discussing with a lot of community members with a wide variety of opinions on the boycott, here's the compromise we settled on for the Fixed TF2 movement. This period we are currently in is going to be a test for Valve. As of this moment, while we do encourage you to vote with your wallet, we are abstaining from advocating for a mass boycott across social media just yet. However, if or when the bots come back, that is when we're going to make a full push for a boycott, so we can strike when the iron is hot, and so we'd be punishing Valve for being lazy, instead of punishing them when they've done something productive for once. So, to summarize, if the bots stay gone, business as usual. If the bots come back, we make a big push for a boycott. And here's where I want to address the biggest critique levied at the Fixed TF2 movement recently, which is the question of why a boycott wasn't the focus of the movement since the very beginning. I'd like to put it on the record that since the very beginning of Fixed TF2, I have advocated for people to vote with their wallet. Abstaining from TF2 financially would certainly send a big message to Valve, but I think it's a matter of focus, and I don't think the boycott should ever have been the sole focus. And here's why. Sure, currently there are a lot of people on board with a boycott, but if you go back in time to when we were floating the idea of a Save TF2 revival with the public, it was a very different story. I put out a poll asking people for their thoughts on various protest methods floating around the community, with one of those methods being a boycott of TF2. The answers to this question were incredibly divided, with over 20% of all voters believing a boycott would be non-productive, and a large portion of voters believing a boycott would be actively harmful to Team Fortress 2. Opening the movement with a boycott would have been naturally divisive, and we wouldn't have seen as much support for the movement from the community as we otherwise would have. Another reason to not make the boycott the main focus of the movement is that a boycott would only be inclusive to TF2's core player base, the people that actually play the game and spend money on it. People outside of or adjacent to the TF2 community would not have been able to participate because it's not like someone can spend less than $0. And if there's anything we've learned in recent times thanks to the series of videos made by Zesty Jesus, it's that TF2's core player base isn't as big as we all imagined it being. A boycott would have garnered less supporters, less headlines, and less people talking about the movement, and the purpose of the movement was to create a lot of noise. Another aspect of the boycott that often goes untold is that while yes, Valve as a company would be affected by a boycott, Valve is not the only group that makes money from TF2 sales. A portion of all revenue generated from community-made submissions is given back to the creators. I can only imagine that many of these workshop creators depend on the revenue generated from their hard work on the game, and a complete financial boycott of TF2 would hurt the individual creators much more than would hurt Valve as a company. The people who make the game's content nowadays are not the people responsible for the bot problem, so I don't think it's necessarily fair that they are punished the most. So yes, I understand that a boycott would send a great message to Valve. I don't think anyone is denying that. But I want to offer you my perspective as to why a boycott would not have been the miracle fix to have gotten Valve off their asses like people seem to think. I view a boycott as a piece of a larger puzzle, and I heavily disagree with the notion that a boycott should have been the only thing we advocated for. And on the topic of giving people perspective, I want to offer you my insight on why we made the petition the central focus and why we did things how we did them. So, why a petition? Unlike the first Save TF2 or even a boycott, with a petition, the TF2 community would see the tangible results of their efforts, because the website would live update with an ever-increasing number of signers. People are going to want to keep coming back to this site, share the site around, and keep up to date with the movement, because they want to see that number go up. The first Save TF2 flared up and died within a day because internet trends come and go in the blink of an eye. Having that counter to drive engagement gives us more longevity, and the longer people talk about the problem, the better. Even a boycott would not have lasted this long. Sure, I bet some of you would have stayed true to your word and not spent a dime on TF2 until the problem was dealt with, and while I admire your passion for the cause and your dedication, you are not the average consumer. Most people would have gotten bored of a boycott after a short amount of time and would have gone back to spending money on the game. With the petition, the barrier for entry was much lower. Just sign the petition and share it around. This led to the petition being shared far and wide and led to a lot of people supporting the cause they would have never even known about otherwise. It's also why I created my bot expose document and video and reached out to journalists and publications across the internet, because I wanted to create a lot of noise and point the finger at Valve for being responsible. And whether you disagree with Fix TF2 as a movement or not, you have to at least admit it was very successful at creating noise and informing people of the bot crisis. So what does the future of Fix TF2 look like? Well, I've already mentioned that we're going to make a big push for a boycott, if or when the bots come back, but what else? Well, currently I'm helping to look over the 300,000 plus names of everyone who signed the petition, and we're curating them to remove all of the Ben Dovers and Mike Hawks. After that, the plan is to get the names to Valve. But that's just what I've been working on. As far as what you, the audience, can do, what I recommend is waiting to see if the bots come back, and when they do, you make a big stink. The stinkiest stink of all time. I apologize for not having a lot to say regarding Fix TF2 in recent times, but the truth is the recent Valve ban wave forced me to take a step back and evaluate. Currently, there's no bots, and with no bots, there's not really a whole lot of news to discuss. So I've mostly been laying low while I wait for the summer update to see if the bots come back. When I have more to say, I'll let you guys know. We're just in a very strange period right now for TF2, and I don't want to report on something that I'm not confident in. Well, I've got over 300,000 names to read, so I'll get to that, and I hope Valve actually learned some sort of lesson from all of this and stop sucking. I'll see you later.